Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where he did it. He actually did it. Jimmy Cameron has gotten his, it looks like, it's pretty much guaranteed at this point, he's gotten his third film into the $2 billion club. And we were all just laughing at this movie like a month ago before it came out. One of you, I published my ballot for the Critics' Choice Awards. I'm a member, so I vote in both the film and TV categories. And I happened to vote for Avatar, The Way of Water, for Best Picture. And one of you remarked, what a journey I've been on with this franchise. Because as you know, I've been a hater for over a decade. And now I'm voting for it for Best Picture. Jimmy won me over. Jimmy won me over. How has been your evolution? Have you loving this franchise? Has he changed your mind? Have you always been in? Did you find you were in, then you were out, then he pulled you back in? I mean, it has been a 13-year relationship. So yes, in its fourth weekend, James Cameron's sequel was able to hold off Blumhouse's Terminator. It is hilarious that he wound up going up against a Terminator for his first big, round one for a competitor. But he kept the number one spot, Avatar 2 did, posting the second best fourth weekend ever for a movie after the first Avatar. Wow! Talking to Chris Wallace recently, Cameron confirmed that Avatar 2 would now turn a profit and that it looks like he's going to have to make all 3 additional movies. James Cameron went the sarcasm route. He loves to make things more difficult for himself. But you know what? Let Jimmy have a little bit of fun. Because he was so nervous about trying to make lightning strike twice. I mean, he set the bar ridiculously high for himself that it took 13 years to make a sequel. We didn't think we could do it. We were sitting there laughing. But look, he's turned himself into a regular George Lucas. And hopefully he can avoid the fate of George Lucas. Although now everybody loves George Lucas again. So hilarious. Question is, speaking of working with Disney, where does the franchise go from here? Obviously, he's got 3 more movies to make, but now that Disney knows they have an ongoing hit, what are they going to do? Cameron and Disney can sit down and plan out how they can squeeze the most out of this new glorious IP. And that's a Disney specialty, squeezing out the most that they can. More Pandoras at Disney's other theme parks. Right now, the land only exists in Florida's Animal Kingdom. Maybe they could expand that land. They're talking about doing a new, a new movie, basically. It's just like the way they updated the Soarin' experience. They want to update Flights of Passage. But, maybe they can think of something else that they could do, because it is a pretty small land. A Disney Plus series? Sure, Avatar is ridiculously expensive to make. But what about an animated Avatar series? I gotta tell you, I would watch that. Just like, the Bad Batch is able to do lower budget Star Wars stories. And it's some of the best Star Wars stuff there is. Bad Batch Season 2, so good. Even though really nobody's paying any attention to it. There's already a comic book, which is only medium, so I hope the animated series would be better. And look for Avatar to be incorporated into Disney's extremely popular cruise line. It is, after all, The Way of Water. Don't you love good synergy? All right, now let's count Disney and Cameron's Avatar 2 money. Avatar 2 is now past $500 million domestic, which is very important because for a while there, it was looking like overseas was going to do all the heavy lifting, and that it was actually not that successful domestically, but now it is. It's currently at number 16 on the all-time domestic list. And even with a straight shot through February 3rd, which is when Knock at the Cabin drops, its next big hurdle, as that's the next big-ish movie to open, and that's going to take over premium screens. We're going to talk about premium screens in a moment. I actually just bought my tickets for Knock at the Cabin because I have friends who are very eager to see it, but I do plan to review the film earlier. Anyway, there's no way that Avatar 2, even with that straight shot, can catch up to Top Gun Maverick's domestic haul. It's just too far away. Top Gun Maverick did fantastic domestic. And so Tom Cruise and Paramount can feel real good about that because Avatar 2 shot way past them worldwide. On the all-time worldwide chart, Avatar 2 is now at number 7, having just overtaken Universal's Jurassic World. And on that note, one of you tweeted me just the other day that it's, on the worldwide all-time top 10 list, it's pretty much entirely Disney at this point, with Furious 7 now knocked out. That leaves just Titanic, which was Paramount domestic, even though it was Fox overseas, Spider-Man No Way Home, which is a Marvel movie, but it's technically Sony. Sony controls that very much so. Kevin Feige, of course, does advise them. And then Jurassic World, which is, has nothing to do with Disney Fox. As the non-Disney entries, Top Gun Maverick, for all its success, is sitting at number 12. But remember, Disney releases fewer pictures than the other studios, so that kind of helps level out the playing field a bit. However, as theatrical releases become more blockbuster-driven, other studios are scrambling to create their own mega IP. But good luck! They're going to have to create it because there's not a lot of existing mega IP left on the table after Bob Iger's legendary shopping spree. And this makes it all the more tragic, by the way, that Warner Brothers has destroyed DC and Wizarding World, with it starting to look like Warner Brothers Discovery might not be able to not just fix them, but might even make things worse. You might wonder, how could they possibly make things worse? But I don't know. Let's see what James Gunn announces later this month. I hope it's good. I'm very nervous. I'm nervous. He's either going to be a Kevin Feige or a less toxic Jeff Johns. He's not well, let's just leave it at that. All right, so anyway, let's just see. Let's see what the presentation is. Let's wait to be negative until we actually have something to be negative about. All right, or hopefully positive. Speaking of blockbusters, Deadline revealed that Disney made exhibitors promise to keep, they had to make a deal, it's not just like a pinky swear, to keep Avatar 2 on their premium screens for 4 weeks. Wow! And now, again, with no big movies until Knock at the Cabin on February 3rd, Avatar 2 will likely stay on those premium screens until then. That's 3 more weekends. 3! Do you know how much money it can make in that amount of time? Spoiler alert, a lot. On Friday night, by the way, I was walking here in New York City, and there's still a lot of tourists in town, and I passed an older tourist, a tourist you would never think would go and see Avatar 2, in theaters, no less, and put on the 3D glasses. But yet there he was, I think he drank a little bit too much, screaming into his phone, "Want to go see Avatar?" I think the movie has reached that point where people who don't usually go to the movies like that are like, maybe we should check it out. There is nothing else to do. It's the middle of January. Or, it's January. It had just a 33% drop domestic this weekend and a similar 30% drop overseas. It'll now get to $2 billion. It'll do it. I can't believe it. That's amazing. And then some. How far past $2 billion can it get? And by the way, the $2 billion club is the new elite level for blockbusters with only 5 members. And when Avatar 2 joins, that'll give Jimmy Cameron 50% of the membership. That's incredible. Like it or not, that is legend status. But the other studios did pretty much totally give up the holiday movie season to Avatar 2. They were like, "Merry Christmas, Jimmy." I don't know why they did that. Well, Warner Brothers Discovery ran out of money, so they couldn't release any movies, but it's pretty ridiculous. And we'll see if Avatar 3 in 2024 has it as easy. Right now, Deadpool 3 is taking the Black Panther Wakanda Forever spot, so Disney's lining it up just the same way for 2024. They have this down to a science. Well, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is right now slated to open opposite Avatar 3 as counter-programming. And then John Chu's Wicked, I think that seriously undercuts Wicked. That's set to open on Christmas Day. Obviously, more movies will get slated as we get closer to Christmas 2024. That's 2 years away. And some of these other movies might, move or shift a little bit. But we'll see what happens. But here's hoping that Universal, Warner Brothers Discovery, Sony, and Paramount offer up some genuine competition. A gimme is no fun for anyone. And again, we want to keep everyone at the top of their game. Now, back on planet Earth with regular box office numbers, M3GAN did real good. She didn't do incredible. She did good. Thankfully, it has a 3 in front of it. All weekend long, it looked like it would have a 2 in front of it, and I was getting ready to say it was a little bit shy of spectacular, because this is actually only an okay debut for the month of January. But with a 3 in front of it, that puts M3GAN, a brand new IP, at the exact same level as the 5th Scream movie, which opened at the same time, or pretty much the same time last year. That's a hot look. M3GAN also delivered great demos across the board. But what's interesting to me is that despite a stellar Rotten Tomatoes score, the audience scores are not great. Now, I know that audience scores for horror films can be pretty low. They tend to be on the lower side. It's like a C or anything in a B for a horror movie is considered pretty good. But it didn't get a B+ like Scream 5, and the Rotten Tomatoes audience score is pretty low, a scooch lower than Scream's. You know what I think happened? Because, this is an incredible movie. The reviews are amazing. But I suspect that some audiences might have been offended by the criticism of using iPads and technology to babysit kids. I mean, isn't that a large part of Disney Plus' success? And I think that some people felt the movie was insulting them. Something I learned while studying sketch comedy, and this is fascinating because you wouldn't think it would be the case, but it is. Audiences are quicker to think that they are the butt of the joke rather than in on the joke. And I think that might have been a little bit of what happened here. That's fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. Also, Allison Williams, she does a great job in the movie, and she's very well cast, and she worked hard to promote it. But I don't think anybody wants to pay to see Allison Williams, so she can do anything she wants, and it's not going to really do much for the movie. So I think maybe a bigger, more likable star would have helped sell more tickets. Also, a male lead or stronger supporting role, character. Ronnie Cheng was hilarious, but again, not gonna sell a lot of tickets. And because and Megan's audience skewed female because I think of Megan herself. But how do we get more guys to see Megan? That's what James Wan, Jason Blum, and Universal really have to ask themselves, because you want it to be a 4-quadrant movie. But Megan, as is, was so cheap to make and will likely do extremely well on digital that surely Blumhouse and James Wan will make a sequel. In fact, I believe I saw a headline that they're already, brainstorming ideas for a sequel. And they can fix those easy-to-fix problems. Super easy to fix. How would you fix them? In fact, Megan is such a social media sensation now that they can probably go all Rian Johnson and have a ton of awesome cameos. I don't think they're going to be like A-list cameos, but I think they could get like a lot of social media people. I think they could get some good B and C list. I think they could get people to be in the new Megan. I think that would be an easy get when you call up people's agents. You're like, you want to do a day of shooting and be in the new Megan? And I think it would be hard for anyone to say no to that. Speaking of going to digital, Universal is being very aggressive with sending most of their movies to digital after just 17 days. Expect Megan to hit digital in 17 days, because even the ones that are doing pretty good are going to digital. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is still number 3 at the box office, and it's at almost 90 million domestic. Yet on Friday, it hit digital, and it's doing very well, and that was 17 days after release, because it opened on a Wednesday. Some countries haven't even gotten Puss in Boots: The Last Wish yet. In theaters. When I tweeted that it was on digital, some of you were like, it's not even playing in my country yet theatrically. And even with a limited global release, the movie is at almost 200 million worldwide. It'll never reach Sing 2's 407.5, also from Universal, but maybe Universal is okay with that, because Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is still doing solid box office. It's doing incredible on digital. It will surely get lots of clicks on Peacock, which could use them, and then it'll eventually land on Netflix, which I'm sure where it will do very, very well. Plus, the movie is getting nominated for Best Animated Feature across the board, and maybe it'll even win some of those. I don't know about that. It should, but I don't know about that. Still, the nominations are nice. Did Sing 2 get nominated? It's crazy. The animation category is more blockbuster friendly than the other categories tend to be for Oscars. But this would make me a little bit nervous at DreamWorks Animation about bringing back Shrek, which they've made it very clear now that they're planning to do. Because Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was so freaking good. How is it not doing okay? Why is it only doing okay at the box office? Maybe Puss in Boots: The Last Wish has to walk, on streaming, so that Shrek can run when it eventually returns. But I'd be nervous about that. They really need to dig in and just consider what happened. As for the rest of the top, because, Avatar 2 came back after a very long time, and it's doing fantastic. As for the rest of the top 10, A Man Called Otto added about 600 theaters this weekend and is doing pretty good. But the strong audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, it's too early for a cinema score. It should get a cinema score next week when it goes wide. That shows that Tom Hanks is still a crowd pleaser. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is still in the top 5, both a testament to the film and how little competition there is in the marketplace right now. By the way, Disney announced that it will hit Disney Plus February 1st, actually, which is the start of Black History Month. And mark your calendars, because that night, we're going to do a 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time watch-along that will be, anyone can join in. Anyone will be able to join in. I think what we'll do is anyone can join in, but only members will be able to comment. That's how we'll make it work for everybody. The rest of the top 10 is just sad. Oh, that's so sad. And I'd like to point out that since we're in the new normal, 3 of these movies are currently on digital, 2 from Universal and 1 from Disney's Fox division, which they still, instead of sending those to Disney Plus, they still have a deal with HBO Max, so those movies go to digital and HBO Max simultaneously. That will eventually run out, and then we'll see what Disney decides to do with them. But I don't know, I kind of like this strategy, and they could send them maybe to Hulu eventually as a substitute for HBO Max. It's a lot of fun to watch a big new movie so early at home. It's a treat. I won't deny it. It is a treat. So I'm wondering, for those of you who still go to see these movies in theaters after they've hit digital, what's the impetus? What makes you decide to still go see it in a theater? I'm curious as we try to understand this new normal. Now let's head over to streaming, starting with Nielsen, where things are real interesting this week. Now, we skipped last week because it was New Year's and they didn't publish the list. And I think maybe earlier in the week they might have put it up there, but I didn't catch it. So we're just going to skip to the second week of December. Nielsen, as I said last week, do you not have interns? All right, so anyway, look at that. While Netflix still has the top 6 on the overall chart locked down, we've got some competition starting to percolate at the bottom. Oh boy, as I said, competition benefits everyone. The White Lotus with its Italy season finale, because remember, they're not seasons because it's a limited series, so it doesn't have to compete in the drama category. I feel that's so cheating. But anyway, Jennifer Coolidge carried over, whatever. I don't care. I love the show. I just want it to do well. But look at that, number 7 on the overall, not even just an acquired. It's in the number 7 in the overall, and that's not even its entire audience. That's just the HBO Max portion, and it's also impressive for Yellowstone, which is at number 9 with just its Peacock part of the audience. And most people, I think most people are not watching Yellowstone on Peacock. A lot of people are watching The White Lotus on HBO Max, but Yellowstone is getting watched, I believe, on Paramount Plus, and also they're releasing it simultaneously on iTunes, and also the Paramount Network, where it originally debuted. If you watch Yellowstone, where do you watch it? So Yellowstone's audience, I believe, is actually significantly bigger than what you're seeing here. And in between them, HBO Max actually has 2 entries on the overall chart with an evergreen acquired series, Friends, cracking into the top 10. That was worth every penny. As you remember, they paid a ridiculous amount of money to get that away from Netflix. On the originals chart, Netflix has the entire chart locked down here, except for the Santa Clauses, Disney Plus's first non-Marvel and Star Wars hit. I believe next week on Nielsen's charts, National Treasure will debut, and we'll see how that does. Then over on movies, because this was December, Disney Plus and HBO Max were able to break up Netflix's hold on this chart with some Christmas favorites, while Sony's Bullet Train, finally trickling down to Netflix, is a hot number 1, followed by Troll and Emily the Criminal, another win for Aubrey Plaza, who, by the way, is hosting SNL at the end of this month. That should be fantastic. Wow, so great for her. You know, talk about a working actor. She's actually been around for a very long time, and it looks like her train might have finally come in. By the way, I'm so happy to see Storks on here. Watch Storks. It's hilarious. Such a funny animated movie. Then over on Netflix's charts for just last week, the week between Christmas and New Year's, Glass Onion continues to do strong, but not spectacular numbers. Still very strong. And it has tons of awards nominations, and I suspect wins. So let's see what he does for the third entry. I wonder how. I think the 1 week in theaters kind of messed this up a little bit. So let's see what they decide to do for the third film. But it's doing better than Matilda. I thought Matilda was okay. I liked the Broadway. I saw it live on Broadway when it came from the West End to the United States. I thought that was a little bit better. I don't know, maybe it's a little bit too realistic, maybe it's a little bit too energetic, but I watched the first 3/4 or 2/3 of it, but then I had to stop because it was too late. And I gotta tell you, I haven't gone back to finish it, which is a shame because I like the people involved in it so much, but there's something off about it. It just doesn't totally click in my opinion. And you can see that reflected a little bit in those numbers. It did very well at the UK box office though, and I know a number of you loved it, so sorry to harsh your mellow there a little bit. And also, Knives Out, by the way, is powered to number 3 because this is a global chart, and outside of the US, it is available on Netflix. While White Noise seems to be just that with a very weak debut. What a waste of everybody's time who made that movie. Although I know some of you enjoyed it, and Adam Driver, I guess, wants to keep his indie cred. I hear he's a frontrunner for a certain stretchy role. I hope he gets it! But anyway, let's see. All right, so anyway, seems Netflix subscribers preferred to binge series rather than movies the week between Christmas and New Year's because there's a lot more activity over here. Wednesday is not only still #1 for the 6th straight week, and now officially renewed for season 2, by the way, as I told you in advance. I was able to get ahead of that announcement by a day, staying on Netflix. But it looks like everyone decided to go on holiday with Emily in Paris, as the 3rd season is not only holding strong at #2, but the first 2 seasons are now also in the top 10 as well. And the Witcher spin-off continues to paint a bleak picture of its Henry Cavill-less future. Liam Hemsworth ain't gonna fill that beefcake void. I mean, do they know why people watch Henry Cavill? Who would say Liam Hemsworth was a substitute for that? I'd be like, he's not a substitute for Henry Cavill. While Harry and Meghan is holding on pretty good. I'd say it's a strong performer for Netflix, but not a sensation. Then over on iTunes, recent theatrical releases continue to dominate here, energizing the marketplace with early access. Ooh, it's fun! Puss in Boots: The Last Wish has shot to #1 immediately after being dropped on Friday, with the first movie also getting into the top 10 as well, though the second movie is so far superior to the first. Well, Ticket to Paradise, now just $6 for a rental, is back at the top at #2. The Menu also continues to do quite strong after dropping early last week on digital, as do several awards contenders. And I gotta say, I'm so happy for The Woman King. I continue to be so happy that this movie has found, I think it looks like a large audience on digital, because ever since it dropped on digital November 22nd, it has been in the top 10 ever since. And look, it's even a little higher than it was last week. I'm so happy for that movie. Such a phenomenal film. As for this coming week, in theaters, A Man Called Otto finally goes wide. Will you catch it? That looks like a streaming movie to me. While Warner Brothers Discovery's House Party opens, have you seen a single ad? They have no money to advertise. It is so ridiculous. It's kind of funny, but not funny for the people who made these movies. As well as Gerard Butler's latest guilty pleasure. You know you watch these movies. Somebody does. I actually kind of enjoy them. But Plane hits theaters. On streaming, Sony's Devotion actually hit digital and Paramount Plus today. You can watch it right now. They're not at all advertising it, by the way, on the iTunes front page, which I find ridiculous and not cool. But I checked. It's available for purchase, but it's still, you can watch it right now at home. While The Subtle Art of Not Giving AF hits digital on Tuesday. And I mention that because that got a surprising shout out of sorts from Representative Katie Porter on Friday night, 1 in the morning, midnight, when they were trying to still vote in a speaker. Also on Tuesday, the Golden Globes talk about shows. Let's see what happens. Let's see who shows up. I mean, that's going to be as exciting as who wins, who actually shows up to this thing. I'll be live tweeting the show and then covering the results on a live stream early the next day. So prepare for a noonish live stream the very next day. As for shows, HBO Max hopes to have another Harley Quinn on their hands with Velma starting Thursday. Although from what I didn't even get to watch the screeners because I got Last of Us screeners instead. The Last of Us review embargo drops, by the way, tomorrow night at 3 a.m. After the Quantumania trailer, I hear drops around 9 p.m.-ish during the game. But anyway, Velma starts Thursday, as well as Jason Momoa's reality competition, The Climb, while Netflix has a new season of Vikings Valhalla. Then on Friday, Prime Video starts the final season of Hunters, and Apple TV, the final season of Servant. Nobody talks about that show, but I got to a 4th season. That's amazing. While Netflix has a new movie, Doggone, starring Rob Lowe as a father helping his son search for their beloved missing dog, based on the popular book. I checked out the trailer. Rob Lowe cannot act, at least not in something like this. I was like, yikes. It looked almost like somewhere between a Hallmark movie and a parody of a Hallmark movie. But you know what? It's got a dog in it, and Hallmark movies do well, so I think there's probably an audience for this. So that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And what do you think of Avatar's spectacular success and M3GAN's regular success? Plus, again, how would you change M3GAN's sequel to have a bigger audience, reach a bigger audience, bring guys in, and get better audience scores? Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.